Well, good morning. This is Alex McMillan, and I want to welcome everyone to our Fun Friday team meeting. Today is August 15th, so half of our month is actually right there at the tip of that. I call this a really exciting time because you get a chance to evaluate yourself as to how am I living this month? You know, how am I living on my purpose? Am I delivering on the levels of action that I said I would move forward into? Where do I really need support? Where do I need the best amount of help? And I think if you'll take a moment to breathe and just do kind of and ask yourself that powerful question is, have I identified my purpose this month and my actions that I'm going to take to move that forward? And how am I marking up against that? If you'll do that, you'll have some pretty amazing opportunities to course correct or to keep going. But either way, you will be moving on purpose. And that's what's nice. And I think that a lot of people, I know myself in the past, don't actually wake up with any kind of intention. They just wake up and be like, time to get up. Oh. And that's the mind. The mind is automatically into the pain and agony of having to get up. Does anybody ever relate to that? Just curious. Where your mind automatic. Okay, not saying it's right now because I don't live like that anymore. But I remember being in that rut in my mind to where it was a burden to get up. Like, are you kidding me? Like, to think about somebody who's on their deathbed or somebody who's struggling, how they would love to be able to get up, to be able to have energy and to be able to have another breath. And here we are with full life. Well, I don't know what's going on in you behind the scenes, and I'm empathetic to that. And some of you might be having family members who are suffering or involved, and I'm empathetic to that. So I'm not saying this to bowl over anything that's critical, but I'm glad I said that because I want you to think about our mortality for just a moment so that you can truly embrace life. And think about that. Like when you wake up, it's like a gift. You've been given the present, okay? And that's a gift. The present is a gift. And that's why it's called the present, of course. And so you can go, wow, I'm here. I'm right now, right here, right now. And this is my life happening in miniature. And so that way of thinking allows you to look at what matters most. If I was going to do anything today, what would be noteworthy? If I was going to call anybody today, what would be a worthy thing? And I think about legacy on a regular basis now. I didn't used to, but I do now. Legacy meaning, what could I do now that just wouldn't make today great, but will make the tomorrow great if people get it? What could I do for someone? What could I give them? How could I serve them today that if I fell off the face of the earth tomorrow, that their life would have more purpose, more impact, more meaning, and it would impact other people? And if you think at that level, it takes a while to get your head around that because it won't come natural in the beginning. But if you get around other people who think like that and you continue to work on that, give it some workout, like a repetition. And think about this. Everything you do before you get good at it, you suck at it or you're not very good at it, okay? You stumble around like a little baby trying to learn how to walk in the beginning. But if you give it some relative time to think of where you relate with the information and the thought process, it's like doing repetitions in the gym or wherever you work out. And you pick up a weight and you get better. Your movement pattern gets better. You get stronger. And before you know it, those 5-pound weights that were burning your shoulders are like baby warm-ups. They're like rattles, and then the 10-pounders, and then the 15-pounders, and so on and so forth. You're building the endurance. And this is a mental, emotional muscle that you're working out to think about what matters most. So my encouragement this morning is that if it didn't come natural for you to think about that this morning, first off, wow, I'm alive and I recognize it. If that doesn't come natural, maybe write it down. Put it on your smartphone, on the back side of your smartphone, because I'm sure it's sitting right at the side of your bed. And put a little sticky note on the back of it, or change your screensaver so it says, what am I living for? There's your first note. Change your screensaver or put a sticky note. It asks you to say, first off, what am I living for? Acknowledge that you're alive. Be grateful. That energy alone can set you off to an amazing day. Before I move on, I'd love to hear anybody's thoughts. Do you receive that? What else? Unmute, please. Jump in, quick.
I would like to share something. I was talking to my brother-in-law the other day, and we were talking about some of this kinds of stuff a little bit because, they're very faithful people and everything, and he prays a lot, which is wonderful. But and I think he looks at me sometimes kind of skeptical. He humors himself to ask me questions and stuff. And I was talking about Take Shape for Life and what I'm doing now, and he was telling me about a lot of these moms he knows that get so busy with their kids, and a lot of them homeschool and everything. And that's just how they are. That's just is what it is. And he thought that was just fact and that's it. And I said, yeah, but they need to take care of themselves. What are they going to get out of doing that? He's like, well, they go to heaven. And I said, well, I'm not disagreeing with that, but we're supposed to live to the best of our ability. And this is the first time in my life that I am waking up every morning gracious and grateful for where I am and the path that my life's going on and for the passion that I have in my life. And it was like an eye-opener to see somebody else's perception, or kind of maybe I'm hoping awaken them a little bit, because if you're praying and you're not taking action, well then, it's both. So it was just kind of interesting to see the different, even with faith and knowing goods to come, it's different to see the perception of having that gracious attitude and where it's gotten me and where it's leading me.
That's great. Anyone else want to share on that?
I'll share on that. I'm right there with you, Gina. I think that I was ungrateful at times for where I was. I didn't truly appreciate. I just felt like, gosh, I gotta take care of the kids. And I was thankful to have my kids, but I wasn't thankful for the type of life that I had to lead to take care of all my kids. And so what Take Shape for Life has brought is that I realize how gifted I am to be able to stay at home with my kids and raise them. But now it's like there's this deeper calling to do even more. And how wonderful is it that I can take care of my kids well and school them and my home, and I'm influencing people to improve their lives as well. I mean, talk about grateful. That's grateful.
I got something.
Yeah.
All right. It's cool. It's cool to be on this. I haven't been on this in a few weeks, you guys. So it's really cool that I've kind of freed up my schedule to be on here. And this is kind of what I was getting at of what was Alex was saying. And I believe it was Gina, that, it's so true. I mean, faith without action is dead. I mean, you can pray and stuff like that, which is great and awesome, but you got to take action too. You can't just sit there and pray for it all to happen and your life to just come together. You got to take action. And one thing I'm reading in this book, I think I mentioned it to you guys, is The Power of Full Engagement. He was talking about how short-term discomfort leads to long-term success. You're going to have this short-term discomfort in any area of your life, your health, your Take Shape for Life business, whatever it is, but embrace that and just know that you're building that muscle mentally, physically, all those areas, so that you can be the best that you can be and ultimately get to where you want to be with your health, with your life. So don't think that this is just going to be an easy ride ahead, because it's not. You're going to go through discomfort, but be okay with that, because if you don't have that, nothing's going to change in your life, and you can't change other people's lives.
That's so great. We have time for one more. Go for it.
I think it was really kind of perfect timing that, as you said, we're talking about what matters most, that my 3-year-old runs in and jumps on my lap. It's, such a great reminder. So, and I think when we're thinking about what matters most for a lot of us, family comes up first, but then it has to be tied with, your chosen mission each day when your feet do hit the ground, and the vehicle for achieving that mission. Do you have this unshakable belief that it is going to draw you closer to what matters most? And not just physical and physical proximity, yes, that too, to be with those things that matter the most to you, but also inside as well, deep down in your core, will it bring you closer? And that is really cool, because I do wake up with that mission every day. And I was just talking to Harold. I was like, Harold, don't ever let me forget that if I didn't get paid for this, I would still do it. I would still feel so fulfilled by the fact that we can provide hope and vision for people. So it's like, okay, do you have this unshakable faith and vision that this, in fact, will draw you closer to what matters most? It's really cool.
That's wonderful. And I think that that's really being present, knowing what you're living for. And then you actually can have fulfillment. If you're just aimlessly walking through the day that you regretted you've even woken up into, it's really hard to have gratitude. It's really hard to even be able to check a box of success because nothing's having meaning. It's not connecting the dots to your purpose. And so I wanted to start here in the conversation and say, if you get nothing else out of today, of this conversation, that you would start working out these muscles to stay present, to become aware, and to name what it is you're living for, and to seek help and support from other people who have had those awakenings, who have been working this out for a while, so we can show you the technique. I think in terms of physicality quite often with my mind. I think in terms of physicality, and that's why I draw these word pictures like I do about working out. Or when I talk to people about achieving a goal, think about it as flying to a destination. And if the plane gets off track, what would naturally happen? What would you hope the pilot would do? What would you hope the autopilot would do? You'd hope it would course correct. But how come so often in our life we don't think physicality like that when our thoughts get distracted? How come we don't think about tethering them and bringing them back to alignment with what we were intended to go? Does that make sense when I talk about that? If we actually could see our thoughts as actually a physical thing, and it starts to go off into some other area, like we're all going on a trip to Hawaii, but all of a sudden our thoughts go off to the South Pole, like, and it's freezing cold right there or something. You would say, hey, hold on, plane's off track. We're going to Hawaii, y'all. We got a timeline, we got a destination, we got great things happening. We would stop the plane. Well, we wouldn't stop it, but we would say, hey, we would consider it, and we would say, turn back. And so that's my encouragement, is you would know where you're headed. You would be able to kind of route that out and get the plan, get the actions, and get the support from the other master pilots or the other people who have been flying for a while. That's what's powerful about this team. Having said that, this conversation that we're having right now started from this statement where I talked about how things sometimes can get complex, but then what happens is you get rid of the stuff that doesn't matter so you can make what matters most happen. So I drew a picture as I was having a conversation yesterday, and I want to know, and if you guys can't see this very clearly, it's because I'm in a small window. You have two different views on Zoom. You have two different views. You can, if for the most part, you can see what's called the gallery view, which is where you're seeing everybody that's on this call at one time by clicking a little icon in your upper right-hand corner. Or if you're on an iPad or a smartphone, it might be somewhere else, or it might be a swipe on the screen. Okay, but there's a gallery and a speaker view. So if you want to see everybody, click that so you can see all the windows. And if you just want to see the speaker, do that. So you might need to blow this up to speaker view. But I want to show you something. On this, in this box, you see all that right there? Okay. It's hard to make out what's on that page. It just looks like I have the handwriting of a pharmacist or a doctor, right? Okay, well, that's because I actually do. But no, there's actually something written on there very clearly. So can anybody tell me anything that it says on there? Did you catch anything? Say it if you saw it. Just unmute and say something if you saw it. What?
Stuff.
Stuff. Yeah. Okay, that was the most prevalent thing that you saw on there was stuff. Now, interestingly enough, this is what I originally wrote in that box.
Mm-hmm.
What does it say?
What's important?
So what I did was I wrote what's important first, but then over the top, this is like you woke up in the day, you identified it, and then over the top of your box, okay, pointing at that, I wrote down this: distractions, emails, other people's priorities. And then I wrote down the word stuff. Those are the only things I wrote over the top. So I wrote over the top of the word what's important. I wrote down emails, other people's priorities, distractions, and then the last word I wrote was stuff. And all you could see is the stuff and a bunch of other confusion, right?
Yes.
Stuff and confusion, when really what's important. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is to go ahead and erase the slate, get your whiteboard eraser out, erase the slate in your mind and write back down in there what's important. And now, of course, that means you need to name that. You can't just say what's important. You want to answer that question. And so what's really in the box is where you're talking about, whatever the, obviously fundamentally there's a purpose that you have, but then there's other primary goals that you have that serve that. There are primary goals that serve that. So we'll talk about that later if you need more help and support in that. But that's pretty powerful to think that how quickly what's important can get crowded out by stuff, other people's priorities. And the reason why I wrote down email is for those of you to go check out that webinar we did last week on Get Productive Now. If you didn't watch that, check it out and you'll see how you can own your day and your mindset by having an organized system. It's a webinar we did called Get Productive Now, and it's about how to be effective. It's about how to be clear, how to be focused, and how to be effective in your life. And that webinar is posted on OHC. So somebody tell me what that means.
Optimal Health Coach.
Say it loud so we can all learn.
Optimal Health Coach.
How many of you are not plugged into the OHC? Please raise your hand if you're not plugged into the OHC. Can I see your hand? Okay, so I've got 3 people, 4 people. So so what the OHC is, someone tell them what the OHC is and we'll make sure that you get plugged into it.
She's plugged in. She probably didn't realize it, but she's on there.
Okay, so it's hard to hear you, Linda, so someone else say what.
Okay, I'm sorry. Betty is, I have signed Betty up for OHC. She probably doesn't realize it, but she's signed up for OHC.
Okay, so what the OHC is, we have a secret Facebook group. It's private. The public Facebook cannot see it. You're invited by special invitation. Your business coach generally invites you and then introduces you. And ultimately, that's a place where you can go there for a posting or whatnot. If you're not yet at senior coach, you want to work closely with your mentor, and the mentor will lead you to specific things that are there. And so you're going to kind of just be starting with just the basics. But once you get to the point where there's more stuff that you might need, then business coaches can lead people to content that is on the OHC appropriately. If you're just now getting started, we don't want to crowd your mind out with too much stuff, okay? So ask your business coach or your mentor, what is relevant next step for me, and we'll let you know if that information is important to you. But if you are having a hard time with prioritization, being productive and effective in your life, I'm going to encourage you to start getting that kind of support about organizing your thoughts. And there's a webinar we did called Get Productive Now. And so check with your business coach or mentor on how to use that. Okay, good. Next, so clean slate in the mind. The hardest part is over. That's what I want to talk about next. The hardest part is over. All right, so what's the hardest part? The hardest part is actually overcoming all the other voices in your head to get to this point where you're on this call, making a decision to serve with your life. It's a pretty powerful thing. It's just a matter of time now if you'll stay plugged in to the servant mind and into other people before you get the skills that you need, learn how to take the appropriate actions, and get that mind, we call it the concepts and the minds, directed properly at what this is that you have in your hands and how to use it. See, it's one thing to know you have something great, and it's everything to know how to use it. Would you agree? I mean, hey, I'll tell you what, a lot of people win the lottery, but very few of them ever do anything productive with it and end up in a happy place. Most of them end up bankrupt and depressed and in a very negative place because they didn't know how to earn it. They don't know how to wield it. They don't know how to basically utilize that success. So you've got a very powerful tool in your hands, and it is a gift to be able to serve people in a way with your life that transfers to them, to their family, to their friends, to people that you don't even know. Think about that. A lot of you on this conversation right now had never met me before a year ago. It's because I knew somebody made impact in their life that knew somebody that made impact in their life that knew somebody that made impact in their life. You see what I mean? And that's legacy living. That's when you do something that has legs on it that can go beyond your own circle of influence. And your circle of influence my circle of influence becomes your circle of influence. And it's when you feed into people the best part of who you are. When you give people the best part of who you are and they upgrade the way they think and upgrade the way they do, okay, which is living, other people's lives are impacted. And that's significant. And that's really the power of what you have in your hands, is not just this Take Shape for Life thing, like it's a corporate name, but the philosophy of taking shape for life and a systematic approach, not so it's sterile or formulaic, because those words like system can become very sterile if you're applying that to like the medical system or you're applying that to some business system. I'm talking about system where like your veins are a system. And all that oxygen and all that blood and all the stuff that's not supposed to be there gets shuttled out. That's a system that gives life. And that's what a system I'm talking about. It's a system that is simple, it's unclogged, it's free of distractions and inflammation. And that's what we're moving towards. But all of us come into this system, if you will, with bringing some old baggage. I guess, would you guys agree to that? We kind of have some old stuff that we've learned, some habits, some ways of thinking that we brought into this new. So we're trying to move into a new world. We got to be mindful that we're trying to bring some of our old belief systems into the new place, and they're just not going to serve us. Those old ways of thinking and operating, 40% of our life, supposedly from behavioral experts, 40% of everything we do is habit driven. Which means if you're taking old habits that don't make sense for the new that you're looking to create, we're going to have to learn to identify them. So let's be open to other people seeing stuff that we don't see about us. I'm going to say that again. Let's be open to other people, that's what we're doing right now, seeing stuff about us that we don't see, that is no longer going to serve what we say the mission is. Is that fair enough?
Yes.
All right. So tell me what you think about that. Why is that important to you? Betty, I think you said yes. Is that right?
I did say yes because
Go for it.
it's important, like you're saying, being honest. I have to share my experience. How Take Shape for Life was helpful for me. So by being honest and sharing that, I'm going to have improvement in my business. So I'm going to share with people. I'm going to help people more.
That's, boy, honesty. What a powerful word. A novel thing in today's society, by the way, but a powerful word. Because it basically says, if I'm truly living authentically, if I'm truly having integrity, would I transfer the goodness that I have to other people? Because the resistance that's going to try and stop that honesty is the past fears of how will I be accepted or will I not be accepted? What will somebody interpret what I'm doing into their own mind? And one of my wise mentors and coaches said to me, because I'm taking more shots than I've ever taken before. And here's what I mean. I'm coming up to the line. I'm taking more shots on goal, right? And because I'm taking more shots, guess what? I'm also getting more resistance than I've ever gotten in my life. Trust me, if you're Michael Jordan, they're going to double up on you and triple up on you. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not yet Michael Jordan with this, okay? But what I'm saying, if you're going to take a lot of shots, the resistance is going to put more up. But you know what? Just like Thomas Edison, who invented the light bulb, just like people who have done anything great to pioneer, there's going to be normal resistance because you're doing something that other people are not used to. And I guarantee you, yourself, myself, you are going to be 3/4 of your own resistance. So whatever you see other people doing, that's a fraction of it. It's the tip of the iceberg. It's you. It's our own minds that will give us the most resistance. So why should we expect anything different than our friends and our family when we're living on purpose? Does that make sense? Somebody tell me what you think I mean by that, because sometimes you say things and people hear their own thing, which is good. I want to hear it. So somebody feed that back. That's what feedback is, by the way.
My perception of that is that, what you were talking about before. We have a business coach to help us identify things that are not leading us in the direction that we want to go. And so if we're not daily giving all our energy to that, we're being easily distracted into things that that's not going to serve that mission and that purpose.
I experienced that with Sam and Harold. We were on a call, and they were asking me about sharing. I was having trouble sharing with people because I would always hit like the financial concern aspect, and I couldn't figure out how to present that in a way. And what I've learned about it was I had my own thoughts about that process and about how much Take Shape for Life costs. So in that mentoring, I was able to identify where I was coming from and deal with that. And that helps me to be able to then change how I was presenting and get it more in line with what I needed to be doing. So that was very helpful. Like sometimes just talking out loud with your mentor about certain issues or certain things roadblocks that you're coming up, you'll start to realize, oh, that's what's going on. It's kind of like being in therapy, I guess. When you hear yourself saying it out loud, you can identify it and move on.
Very good. Wow. Kat, go ahead.
Sorry. So something happened to me this week that was similar, talking about the resistance and talking about family and friends and becoming, like, you get that resistance. And we were at dinner with my parents, and they've always will say kind of like snide remarks about what I'm doing now. And I just kind of blow it off. But then after dinner, like the snide remarks came, and they don't even realize what they're doing. But I stopped, and I stopped myself, and I said, you know what? There were about 3 comments that really kind of were not really that positive that I would say. But at the end of the day, I said, you know what? There were so many more positive things in our dinner that why am I focusing on those couple of things that weren't really that great? So I was just really focusing in on those couple of things when there was a whole multitude of really great things. And it was nice to be able to stop myself and be like, just stop. They don't mean anything. They don't understand. It's just not, that's fine. But I had to have that awareness to be able to stop and refocus on the really good things versus the few things that weren't really that uplifting, if you will.
Wow. That's powerful. I want to just acknowledge what Allison did is actually what I believe one of the most powerful things a person can do is to refocus their brain. What we just did was you just saw her say the plane tried to go from Hawaii direction to the South Pole. You saw that? Because of the resistance. Resistance is like the winds blowing. Air traffic, there was other planes in the air. There was winds blowing of adversity, and her plane started getting pointed down south, right? She caught it. She redirected it, focused it back on Hawaii by what is going right, and chose and made a decision. Now, I want to ask all of us a question. What if she didn't do that? What kind of image would be left in their mind around what her mission is and what she's doing? Think about this for a moment. Let's say that she chooses to go down south with that, meaning going down, like the wrong direction. And so she comes back with snide remarks and comments. By the way, I've done this before. Okay, so I'm speaking from, what's the word? Come on, somebody fill my brain. I can say all these fancy words. I just can't say the easy words. Experience. Okay, yeah. So yes. And I'm not just empathizing. I've actually literally been this person who said something back versus just staying true to integrity. Now think about that. All they know is they're making comments about what she's doing. She gives negative feedback back to their thing, and they associate more negativity with what she's doing because of that negative feedback. You see what I mean? Because you give negative feedback to the negative, it gives more negative feeling. However, if you give positive, more love, and you just kind of like turn the other cheek, right? You go the extra mile that's needed. They say something else and you give them everything. You say, I just love you guys. I I just so happy to be on this journey and helping other people. You know, and hey, if you ever want to know more about what I'm doing, I'd be happy to share. But, you know, and you just, you know, not to be passive aggressive, but just to be in that mind and keep going. What kind of a witness is it when they see that your resolve is there? When they see other people's lives getting changed, eventually that resistance turns into going, I wonder if she's onto something, because she seems to be pretty convicted about this. And there's enough evidence now. And she just is such a positive mind. And she's never really, and they won't even remember the snide remarks they've said, unless you've given them some negative reason to remember that they had those, right? And all of a sudden they're going to realize that she's on the plane to Hawaii, and they're going to go, you know what, Hawaii would be kind of nice, because where I'm living right now is not quite as nice. What do you guys think about that?
This is a classic, actually, to something that I was researching yesterday, and it was based off of stimulus response psychology. And it was, you have stimulus and you have response, and there's that gap in between, which is essentially that choice that we have to respond to that stimulus. And how we respond is going to be the outcome of how you leave an impression on that person. And it was a powerful thing that he left us with that was, don't give your power away to other people's sins. So meaning, like, if someone else has a bad attitude or someone else makes, like, don't give in to that. Don't give your power away into their sins, into what their issues are. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more into it. It was a very powerful presentation, and it's like 45 minutes long, but it was, that's kind of the thing, though. It's that gap. It's to know that we have a choice between what's going on, that stimulus and that response. That's when you make the choice. And that's the power we have. And that's another thing that, like you said, that separates us from animals. Stimulus and response is like this with animals. It's just autopilot. It's instinctual. They can't make a choice, but we have that gap to make that choice. As Alice said, she was able to reflect on all the positive things. She didn't give her power away to their sins. They didn't know they were doing it. And I'm not saying sins. I mean, don't over-analyze that. But anyway, yeah, it's pretty cool how this all tied into that.
Yeah, I love you even more, Harold. With the therapy that we do with our son, I didn't mean to jump in on you, Sam, but it's just like, it's one of the things that I fell in love with this company is the behavior. My son has autism, and we do behavior intervention with him. We do therapy with him. It's behavior. All it is changing his behaviors. And we use something, and when you said that, I was like, woohoo! It's called stem pairing, and it's the stimulus paired with the stimulus. So Annie had, I think it was Annie or Sam, one of y'all had shared something for new people, like coming into the program and the kids fussing when you're interviewing a client and you're on the phone, the kid, you know, your child's fussing. Well, that's when you take out all these really cool, fun toys. What you're doing is pairing being on the phone, interviewing a client with something really highly reinforcing for your child and making them happy. And like, every day, and when I hear this stuff and I get more exposed to this stuff, because I thought I had to go back to school to do this kind of stuff, and I'm like, I don't have to go back to school. I can just do this, you know? I just like constantly just keep falling in love with this, because that's what it is. It's just fine-tuning our behaviors and changing our behaviors and changing other people's behaviors and outlooks and perceptions, which is all just behavior. So I'm just so excited. Okay.
And you know, to take it actually simplified even more is to take that fancy stimulus response psychology term, and guess what? It's called stop, challenge, choose.
I was good.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
What I think what's really cool is, yeah, we are all using stop, challenge, choose here. And, you know, when you realize, I think we all want to deflect, and this is going to help us relate to our clients more and coach them as well. And we want to feel like we are the victims of what's coming at us versus realizing that we have the choice to either develop a healthy boundary or not have one at all to things and still stay on our mission. And I think, like, if you're new coaches, you're probably like, wow, this is like really deep stuff. Aren't we here talking about Take Shape for Life? Take Shape for Life is our chosen vehicle, and personal development and helping others personally develop into their health is how we utilize these tools. So when you choose a mission and you build that faith in it, of course, like Alex says, you're going to experience resistance, just like when our clients choose the mission of creating health in their life. There's not many people that do that, quite honestly, which is why we are all employed here today. You know, same likewise as you're coaching others to help other people there's not many people doing that. So you're going to experience resistance when you fully commit to that mission. And knowing that you have the choice to stay grounded in your thoughts and your mission is really powerful.
All right. For those of you who have to jump off real quick, I just want to give you this summary in this. What we're really talking about is being responsible. Responsibility is basically two words. And when Harold talked about this gap between something happening, a word, a comment, your own resistance in your mind, your own doubt, and the response that you do, what you choose to do next, that's where your responsibility lies. So responsibility is two words. It's response and ability. You have the responsibility. You do. You have it. It's just you have to learn to use it. And that's when that gap between when something happens and what you do next gets really big. And see, in the beginning, the gap is really small, meaning you just knee-jerk and you automatic. And if you're living in automatic, remember I told you there's those old behaviors, your old ways, they may not be serving a servant mindset. If you're truly going to serve and you're really going to do it based on purpose, you have to remember it's not about whether it feels good all the time. It's about, is it the right thing to do? See, there's a big difference between doing things because they feel good and doing them because they're the right things to do. Sometimes they're going to feel good. Sometimes they're not, but you still do them because they're the right thing to do. And that eventually can lead to more positive feelings for you and other people, but not always. And that's the part where the servant has to accept it. And I'm not talking about the servant who's a slave because they don't want to be. I'm talking about the person who chooses to be a servant, who chooses to give their life to other people as that, and without the expectation that everything's going to be a positive, exciting, happy-go-lucky return. Does that connect at all? Mm-hmm. And then, as Harold talked about, he said, don't psycho or overanalyze this, about basically the word sin. And I just thought this is an interesting word because I've studied this word quite a bit. But this right here, do you see what I have on this side? That's an archer, somebody who's got like a bow and arrow. And you see where do you see where the arrow hit? Mm-hmm. Okay? You see where the target is. That is literally what the word means. The word is a Greek word. It's hamartolo. And it means, and whenever you watch an archery match today, if the archer misses the target, they call it sin number 1, sin number 2, sin number 3. So every time you take a shot and you miss the mark, you miss the bullseye, it's called a sin. Or you miss the whole target, it's called a sin. It means to fall short of the prize. So don't let other people's falling shorts redirect you to start falling short. Just because they're not aiming on purpose or not aiming on asking you, why do you do what you do? And wow, that's exciting, because it, doesn't mean that you want to go and start putting your aim in another place. Does that make sense? So visually, every time you hear the word sin, you have to decide what your purpose is. And if you're making choices that are not on target, correct. Move the arrow, move the aim a little bit. The winds start blowing, it's normal for your arrow to go off target when the winds are blowing, but don't keep taking the same aim. Start re-aiming. Get other people who can help you do that so you can be more on point. So having said this, we're really excited, obviously, because we're finding in ourselves that we do have the resolve when we're on purpose, when we're mindful of what we're living for. And you don't have to know all the psychology. You don't have to read all the books to be a great health coach. Okay, so all this was just knowing that there's an iceberg underneath the surface of you. There's a lot of mass behind what you're doing. The tip that you see, and you guys have probably seen that before, right? Icebergs, you know what an iceberg is? Floating in the water. That big massive block that you see above is literally, supposedly, 1/5 of the size or less of how big the iceberg is. The rest of it is, who are you underneath? And if you let little things that crash into you, maybe you are just an ice cube floating in the water and that's all you are. But if other stuff crashes into you and you keep moving forward, maybe you have a little more weight underneath. So do think about your purpose more often. And then when we get into the how, which is where we're going to go next, and some very simple things that you can do to move it forward, move life forward, you'll find that as you take more action to do the how, you'll be a little more steadfast. You'll feel a little, who would like to feel a little more stable in their life when stuff comes up? Here's one of the secrets. Stay plugged in to these kind of conversations. Stay plugged into meditating on this kind of thought process while you take action. Don't just spend all your time in this kind of mode without taking action, but do the action. We call it like the 80-20. And this 80-20 is different than the 80-20 you might have heard of. In this case, what we want to do is spend about 80% of the time taking actions so we can actually get more out of this kind of conversation. Because if you are having this conversation, and I'm going to pause, if you are having this conversation without taking action, it's all just theory. Does that make sense? And theory doesn't get anything done. Theory is just more thinking. Experimenting in life is what gets things done. Taking actions in life is what gets things done. And when you basically start experiment comes from experience. Okay? When you start experiencing what we're talking about, then you become battle tested. That's when you can start refining. That's when you can start learning how to aim in practicality. And then this is no longer theory. This is just a real, like, oh my goodness, breakthrough. And that's when you want to start inviting other people into this, because you are willing to get in the trenches with them. And then you're saying, come, let's plug back into the energy source and let's go ahead and do this. And you start paying it forward. I'm going to stop there and just ask for people to reflect on what was just said. Any thought that comes to your mind, just really, because I want to see how you think. And I know it's tough sometimes to get like past that mute button and say it, but do it. Just push it and say something.
Do it.
Unless you don't
I have something from what you said earlier, but I didn't want to go back too far. So.
No, it's fine.
You were talking about the self-resistance and the resistance that we get. And, what I've boiled it down to is it's fear. It's fear of falling short, of not living up to expectations of yourself, of others. It's fear of failing, and I think if we can get past that and, make decisions that'll move us forward, it's much easier to get past that self-resistance. Take Shape has put so many powerful tools in front of us that if we just use them, we don't need to have self-resistance because they're teaching us how to do it and they're showing us the way. And then, of course, when you have awesome mentors like yourself and Sam and Harold, who, no matter how much self-resistance you have, for me, it was I want to be perfect before I start sharing this program. But Sam and Harold were like, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be one step ahead. And, so that's really helped push me out of this self-resistance into the moving forward. So that's all I got to say.
I love it. I'm a very visual person, like I said. And you know what I saw, Mark, as you were sharing that from your heart, is once you learn to use the resistance, you can become an amazing pilot. You understand that planes do not fly without resistance. They have to have resistance to take off. That's the only way you can get lift is from friction. You know that? The wind has to have some weight. It has to have some push. You just need to learn how to adjust the sails. You just need to learn how to adjust the ailerons, the wings, whether you're sailing a boat or flying a plane. You just need to learn how to use the resistance. Otherwise, you're dead in the water. Go try and sail a sailboat with no wind. Go try and fly a plane with no resistance. Go try and live your life without being buffeted. That means having some friction, having something to basically work against. You will not grow. You will not be useful to other people. You'll be a pile of weak gibberish on the ground because you have no strength and no muscle. You only build muscle through working out, and you only work out with resistance. This is an opportunity. Embrace it. Learn how to start taking the actions at where you're at. And guess what? You're going to just become strong. Your spiritual growth, your personal growth, your physical growth. It's amazing. Mark, thank you for talking about that and stepping through the worry about this is going to hurt a little bit. You know what? It's going to hurt a lot if you don't do anything. It's going to hurt a whole lot if you sit there and don't work it out.
I'm just finishing this really awesome book. I just finished it last night, The Go-Givers. I'm sure a lot of y'all have heard of it. It is not the Go-Getters, The Go-Givers. And it really is just a very beautiful book. And it just really embodies very well what we aim to do here as health coaches and coach mentors. And in that book, there's a guy that says, you know, it may feel silly, it may be scary, but you just do the dang thing anyway, because you know it's right. It doesn't matter how you think it's going to feel or what's going to happen. You just do the dang thing anyway. And Zig Ziglar, I'm going to butcher it, but he has a quote and says, you know, one ought to do a scary thing every single day. That thing that they don't want to do every single day, and then soon, before you know it, that thing you don't want to do becomes the thing that you love to do. So I just think that is really cool here, that we're talking about resistance, we're talking the path less chosen, we're talking about all these wonderful things, but how it can amount to something so wonderful. And that somewhere along the way, people lied to all of us and told us that we have to be perfect. And if we're anything less than that, we're not good enough. But good enough is good enough, and you can actually grow once you realize that your lack of perfection is actually your strength. Mark always jokes with me a lot, because when I speak to people and I do presentations, I'm very clear with them that I am not perfect, nor do I aim to be, and they shouldn't either. So, okay, I'm gonna stop there.
Wow. So here we are. I'm feeling pretty warm and fuzzy that we're in the right space. I feel like I'm in the right group of people right now. and I'm feeling like we've got the right purpose, because notice we haven't talked one lick about the 5-in-1 plan. We haven't talked one lick about a process. What we're talking about is personally serving and growing and being willing to stand and be counted for. And you know what? With that, we're all acknowledging ahead of time that it's not always going to be easy. We're saying that right up front, because we're going to go upstream, we're going to go cross stream, I want, again, visually thinking, there's a river, it's got some rapids in it. You're on one side, the people who need help are on the other side. You got to go meet them where they're at. They're in the water. You know, I don't know how to swim that well. Your mentor probably does. Let them show you, let them grab your hand and show you how to go get people and how to get them across that water to that place. And eventually you'll get so good at it that you'll actually be like, I got you. Let me show you. Not only will you go get people, you'll show them how to do what you do, because those scary waters will become almost a playground for you. They become an opportunity for you to exercise in, for you to help. And you start to see the beauty in it. You start to see all of that. And so we got to talk about practically, how do we drive in this way that we get good at it? And it's no different really than learning how to drive a car. When you started, it was exciting to have this idea that you were going to have to be able to drive this car, not just for the sake of driving the car, because that's kind of cool when you're thinking about it. For some people, it's terrifying to think about driving a car when they first started learning. How many of you, when you first started learning how to drive a car, the thought of actually doing it terrified you, just out of curiosity? Like, you're just like, oh, okay. And how many of the other parts of you were just so excited, you didn't care, you just like couldn't wait to drive that car? Like, it was just like exciting. All right, so either there's probably a couple of you, but a lot of people were terrified because it's unknown. You're not very good at it, right? You could die. You really could die. You know, your chances of dying in a car are so much higher than a lot of other things, right? Like than the flying a plane, or supposedly even going to the moon. You have a higher chance of dying in a car, I guess, because it's relative to how many times they go to the moon. But regardless of that, think about this. Think about this. You got better because you took action while you were still imperfect. That's the key. Because the hope of the freedom that you were going to have was worth the effort. And guess what? Did you learn all by yourself, or did somebody link up with you and give you enough time? Well, maybe you just took the keys to the car and you just started doing it. Okay, you might be that one rogue person, but you also learned from your mistakes. How many of you had a fender bender, just out of curiosity? How many of you got a little ticket every once in a while, a little ticket from doing something, infraction for something wrong? Did you learn from it? I hope. How many of you almost hit a guardrail, or almost swerved in the other lane, or almost could have been killed, but you didn't? Did you learn from it? Did it help you pay attention? That's what this is like. You're going to get out there and start driving. And you're going to get out there and start helping people. And you're going to almost have collisions. And sometimes you are going to have them, but you're going to get back in and you're going to start learning and figure it out. And so every one of your mistakes are missed takes. You took action, do it, and you missed, you're going to use it to correct. And that's why failure isn't failure. if you get up and you learn from it. Failure is not failure if you get up and you learn from it. It's just part of the process. It's part of the success. It's part of the journey. It's normal. And you need to believe that. You need to believe that that is supposed to happen for you. It's not against you. It's for you. So embrace that it's for you, and you get up and you move forward. And so how do we do that? Well, what we do is we first identify that the reward is worth the risk. And you have to say that. Being a Take Shape for Life coach, meaning being a person who's going to serve other people's lives with helping them get healthy, plugging them into a healthier mindset, helping them get to the habits of health in their life, is that worth your time and attention and worth a little growth for you? And if you decide that it is, which most of us here have, some of us might be a guest, then at that point, you trust your mentor enough to say, all right, they've got my best interest in mind. They've been through this. They've got my best interest in mind. And they're going to teach you how to basically start properly. And you want to follow that starting properly. And we've just simplified that starting process so refined and so well that we know exactly how to help you. And that next step, for those of you who are just getting started, is really to think about people that you would like to share health with. Not people who you're trying to get, but people that you just would like to share with, regardless of what you think they're going to think or what you think they're going to say. You just want to identify people you would like to share health with and share life with. And hopefully your filters can really, really take that to heart. Take all that other concept stuff, that false expectations appearing real, that's fear, false expectations or false evidence, all the stuff in your mind that says this, and don't even think about that. And write down some names of people that you really would like to help if you knew how to or you could. That's it. Then let your mentor help you identify which people you need to practice with. These are not people you're even going to give the opportunity to join with you yet. Just people that it kind of goes like this. Once I've identified a few people, it kind of goes like this. So, Harold, who in your life likes you and knows you so well that they are people who basically will go to bat for you? They are people who will do things to help support you in your life. And you name those people. And say, well, could you go to your mom, if that's one of those people, or your aunt, or your friend, or so-and-so, and just say, hey, I'm learning how to help people get healthy, but I need practice because I'm not that great at it yet, but I want to be. And I need people that are safe for me to practice with, okay? So I've got a mentor who's teaching me, but I need to learn how to answer people's questions and how to ask them. So would you be okay with being one of my practice people in my life so I can get these skills? And when he starts talking about what we do, could you ask him some of the hard questions, things that are, if you have things that you aren't sure of or you're skeptical about, would you ask him those questions and just ask what comes natural to your mind so I can learn to see how to help people with health? Because, not everybody understands how to do that, and I want to learn how to do that. So I'm going to stop for a moment. Did you guys see what I was doing? We've gone for a while. Yeah, no, did you guys see what was happening as a new person? Comments? Okay. So I'm getting some. So the point here is that if you're at that point as a new coach where you just need practice, find a couple people. First off, create a list of people you like to share life with, and then let your mentor help you identify a few people that you feel safe with so you can purely practice. These are not people that you're going to try and get or sell. They may have questions and they may want to join you, but that's up to them to decide that. What you just want to do is listen to your mentor coach share this so that you can see how you naturally share with somebody, how the conversation is actually going to be a positive and nobody's head's going to get bitten off. And even if your friend or significant other or mom or whoever it is that's helping you out in the beginning, ask some hard questions. See how your mentor coach navigates those waters. See how they help it become a friendly situation. See how they stay on the positive side and see how it's not crazy. And it naturally will lead to more people getting healthy. Once you can experience that yourself as a new person, or if you're a business coach, once you can help your new coach learn to experience it, this is, wow, that mentor coach actually knows how to have positive relationships with tough questions. And it was simple. And that person may or may not get healthy. Maybe not everybody they talk to, because we're not trying to again, get a client. What we're trying to do is teach you how to have conversations about your story, about why you're doing what you're doing, and how to answer people's questions, how to answer their normal resistance, and how to show them that health is possible when you do it through a simple approach. I'm going to stop there and just say that there are every step along the way. Beyond that, there is how to do a proper client interview, how to properly recommend their first order, how to send them the proper email videos to support them as they get started, how to get them onto phone calls for the support system. All that's a normal part of the process, but you don't want to go to those other steps until you know how to, first off, just share what you're doing with people properly. And your mentor is going to help you with that. So having said that, how many of you are at that stage, just so we're not going to cover it right now, but how many are at that stage? Please be transparent and vulnerable right now, or at that stage where you just need to get confident with being able to share this so that you can learn how to do that and how to do it properly. I just need raise your hand so I can see who you are. All right. So just real quick, I want to make a note because I want to spend the time with you. Thank you for being open about that. Okay. And then I'm just making notes here. Raise your hand again, please, so I can see it again. Who are at that initial stages of getting comfortable with sharing? Okay. Excellent. All right, wonderful. And so now I know how to properly follow up with you and make sure that your mentor is working with you and we're doing it in a simple way. How many of you are at that phase where you are looking to get better at helping other people share in that simple way? You're learning how to be that mentor to guide people through the water and how to show them. Okay, great. So I'm just making a note here, and hopefully the other coaches who have been around for a while are making a note of who that is. Because what we want to do is we want to support you so that that you know how to support other people properly and that you're doing it in a way where you feel. Because what will happen if you're supporting another person is sometimes you get stuck. And not only do you have their resistance, see, as a business coach, who's mentoring, deal with the coach you're supporting, to deal with the potential resistance in the mind of the potential client or practice partner you're working with, right? You see how that's a layer? And so the mentor coach who's working with the business coach, I'm here to help you understand all aspects of that. Not that it's always simple easy in the beginning, but to help you move forward. It looks like my audio's in and out. Can you hear me right now?
Yes.
Okay, Sam, can you do me a favor and just unmute and tell me what parts of what I was saying got missed, if any?
We were catching how you were talking about getting competent teaching others. Mm-hmm. And as you were talking about the process by which your mentor coaches us are going to help them understand that, it was going in and out. Okay.
Hopefully you got the gist of it, that we have what we call multi-level mentoring. That's what we do. We have multi-level mentoring. And so we as mentors, I basically want you to know I got you. I don't care if you're 5, 6 healthy people away from me. People that, because some of you on this call are 5 or 6 people away that I never even knew you until today or a few weeks ago. I am here for you to help that your entire line of support is properly helping you, because I want this to be simple. Not always easy, but simple for you to understand. And I want you to be able to become an expert at it, to the point where you go, oh my goodness, I'm not only competent at this, but I'm actually confident. I get it. And I'm okay with some resistance. I'm okay with people taking shots at me because I know how to love them through that. And I know how to be a pillar in their life to where when they're ready, they're going to see me as a pillar. Does that make sense when I say stuff like that? Because if you just crumble under pressure, you're not a pillar. And that's normal, okay? A lot of people took some big chips out of me, but honestly, they didn't. I did. I let them chip. Does that make sense? They're going to take shots. That's normal. You're going to take shots at yourself, okay? Like I said, I don't think we're our own worst enemy, but we can be, okay? We can be, for sure. We just need to flip that. All right. So I want to hear your closing thoughts. I want to hear your closing remarks before we go on into action. And I want to hear what you think the next thing that you might think would be responsible to do. So closing remarks, and what do you think you would either like to know or what you think the next step is? Please unmute and just share, and we'll part there.
I just wanted to share as like a new coach. I know it's quiet the whole time. I'm just, gathering all the information, but it's interesting to see, and it's helpful to hear everyone saying, I know we're not really talking about, the whole Take Shape for Life process. It's more about, getting our minds right, stepping out of our comfort zone and stuff. And I just feel like, everything that all of you guys are saying, it's really helping me get out of my comfort zone, especially with that initial stage, making those initial practice calls and things like that. Every time I'm speaking to my mentor or, gathering in these meetings, I feel like I'm getting one step closer in taking action. Because just like, I think it was Mark who mentioned, we can have all the tools in front of us. We can have all the books and the manuals and stuff, but we can educate ourselves, but as far as, just learning about it, it's just theory. And I just feel like right now I'm at that stage where I need to start taking action, and you guys are actually helping me gather that. So I appreciate what I'm listening to today. So that's my remark.
That's perfect. Thank you.
This is the first time I've been on one of these calls and, or meetings, and I have 2 pages of notes, but I really like all the metaphors you use, like the planes heading to Hawaii, but our brains going to the South Pole. And it made me think about, I was on a call with a gal last night, and she said, I'm just so afraid and so embarrassed because I've tried so many things before, and I don't want people to think I'm stupid and trying this again. And I totally empathize with her because I did the same thing 50 pounds ago. And so I was just honest with her, which I appreciated getting affirmations about. But now I have more things like the target and the fear, the false expectations appearing real. And, just the is the reward worth the risk type of thing. And we kind of touched on that last night, but it's going to be more helpful now. So
that's wonderful. Mary, thank you for sharing that. And I want to get to know you more. Who's your mentor coach that you work with?
Kim Stewart, and then Daniela
Carulli.
Yes, Carulli.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I directly mentor Daniela. That's where we're at.
Yeah.
But Daniela's coach is a gal named Diane. Okay.
Oh, okay.
But just to give you an example, Diane's a friend of mine. And Dr. Carulli and his wife Daniela were contacts of theirs, and I started mentoring with them. And then you've got a gal named Carol Workman, who's a doctor. Then you have a physician's assistant named Lisa, and then
that's
Lisa
Kim's
has a sister named Kim, who became a client. Yeah. Kim became a business coach by helping you get started, and here you are to help people. So that's 7 people, right?
Right.
And here we are now connecting for the first time. I'm just like, that's so great. I'm glad we're now plugged into each other. So you and me and Kim, can we have a conversation soon?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I want to help you sort out everything you just talked about so you can go, wow, this is good. All right. Well,
okay. Sounds good. Thanks.
Right. So could you reach up, Mary, to Kim and just say, hey, Kim, let's get on a 3-way call with Alex?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone else want to just share your takeaways here, what this meant to you, and what you feel like, or if you feel like there's any questions that you have?
Alex, I wanted to say I have 2 children, and one is a little boy with autism. And just to explain that as a parent, that when you realize something is going on with your child, and especially before the diagnosis or then comes the diagnosis, and you feel like, you don't have a handbook. There is nothing that prepared me for that. There was nothing. And I was a pretty shy person. I was pretty quiet. I wasn't a very good advocate even for myself, I'd have to say. And yet now I was in a position to advocate for him to other people, to other medical professionals, to teachers, and school professionals, and it really was not, I was totally out of my comfort zone. And it really was, the only thing that I could do was to think, okay, yes, this is, of course you have all these emotional feelings, but you also know you have to move on for your child. So it's sort of like, my children are my why. So then it was like, okay, so how am I going to get to where I need to go? I have to educate myself. So then I started reading and just connecting with people who knew better than I did, people who've had experience, and learning from people. And eventually I got to the point where I realized there were so many other people who were beginning like I was beginning, and I could reach out to them and I could offer them so much more, even though I was still in a learning process. I was not, still not there yet where, for his entire life, I'll have to advocate for him. But it never ends. But still, I offer to other people. I have so many people that I honestly can say I have touched their lives, I've improved their lives, I've improved the lives of their children, and I feel like this could be the same way.
Wow. Oh, and as you share that, and I think about you, it's such a scary unknown territory, and talking about being the mother and the mentor of an autistic child who trusts you when you ultimately don't know how to navigate, but yet, you know what you did in faith? You said, I'm navigating. I'm going to do, and what that does is it says, I don't have it all figured out, but it's worth the risk versus the reward versus the risk is there. You identified it. This person needs me to figure this out. And what can happen in our lives if we figure this out? We figured out how to drive this car, to fly this plane, to sail this boat. What if we do? What if we figure out how to adjust the sails when the adversity blows? And you just connected me at a heart level, and I don't cry very often, so there's it's one of these things where it's real, and I thank you guys for sharing this. All right, I know that's going to be hard to say something on top of what Ann said, but does anybody else?
And I just have to say what I was hearing was, with the referencing to being the advocate for your child, when you couldn't even be an advocate for yourself, was that you found a mission that was beyond you. It was greater and bigger than you and your fears and the worries about what you weren't and what you thought you couldn't be, because all of a sudden that just didn't even matter anymore. I think that's kind of really what all this boils down to, is, like I said before, that unshakable faith that what you want, it's bigger than you. It's bigger than your current fears and what you think you can't do, because it can help you grow into that. I just thought that gave me chills, really.
I felt when Alex was saying the reward worth the risk, I wrote that down because I felt that so many times in dealing with my child. It was like, okay, I'm uncomfortable with this, or I don't feel, like I can do this, but I have to, because if I don't, who else will? And if I let, say it was an issue with the school system, if I let them do what they want to do, which I don't agree with, because in my opinion, it's not the best thing for him, then he suffers. And so for me to come out of my comfort zone and advocate for him to get what he needed was more important than having him fall behind or having him lose what he needed in the school system.
I spent some time with Dr. Anderson several times now. It's neat to see. We have, and some of you guys, most of you don't understand Dr. Anderson and the kind of heart that this guy has. I didn't. I saw him as this kind of orange figure on the cover of a book when I first, looked at him. Like, seriously, that's kind of like what I saw. And then I saw him as this very, very passionate, almost dictatorial like speaker on a stage who had a heart, but clearly was just so bold and confident, and that nothing's going to get in his way from, this mission of obesity. And then I saw him as this person who hurts for people enough to come alongside them and actually get to know them and empathize with them and feel what they feel, and to truly listen and to respond in a way that was responsible. He had the ability to get in there. And then I saw him as a person who was willing to literally get on a phone call with my wife and I and find out who we were. I'm serious, this is a real deal. We had a call with him because we applied to be able to do that. And he picked out of all these people, we were one of like 30 or some people he talked with. And then I went to these events and I got a chance to listen to him coach and talk. And long story short, everybody, was Dr. Anderson has this ability to empathize, and something again that Ann said that I want to give as just a thought here for you. Each of us has experienced stuff in our life where we've had to step up before we were good at it. And if you need to go back to when you were a baby and you took those steps when you really were not good at taking any steps, and somebody cheered you along the way, or when you took that first shot when you had a lot of risk, but the reward was worth trying. And as Ann talks about with her son and other people. So here's what I'm asking you. I'm asking you to go back to the place where you took action even though you weren't great, and transfer that ability to do that, to take action when you're not great, to this. I'm asking you to dig back to an experience, and like Dr. Anderson taught me, he goes, you, Alex, know how to be a pro. He goes, tell me something you're a pro at. That even though you don't feel like getting out of bed, you still got out of bed to do it. Even though, and I started thinking about, well, as a parent, I get up and I do things for my kids that I don't feel like doing all the time. There was a job I had. I got up and I did it. He goes, take that professionalism and use that and apply that to this. Stop toe dipping with this. Stop treating this like a hobby. And because if this is the real deal and it's changing your life and it's changing other people's life, what if you treated this like a professional? And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm going to do that. And here we are. So that's my encouragement, is that we would actually now take this into action and look at the reward of this and say the risk is worth it. Let's get in there. Let's do this. Anyhow, I just love being here with you all. And I love the fact that we get to keep this going. This isn't just a one-hit wonder. This is it. We're moving forward. Anybody else have any things or questions that you need help with? I just want you to know I've got 30 minutes scheduled out for anybody who needs mentorship or who wants to jump on the Zoom with me and keep the conversation going. I'll stay here for anybody who has stuff you need to specifically work out. So if some of this is still theory and you want to put this into practical, just say, I want to stay and I want to ask you questions. Otherwise, we'll part. Other thoughts, other questions, comments?
I think this is just huge stuff. And if y'all are, like me, you're feeling awesome. You're feeling connected. You're feeling like this vehicle is really integrous and something that can really help people. And you're feeling more confident in that. And then something, Alex, you said to me a couple weeks ago, or I don't know when it was soon, but you were like, gosh, and Sam, you were just like, remember when you just like so ready to be there already? Like when I first started, I just wanted to be there. Like I caught the vision. I went to my first event and I was so ready to be that person on the other end who had transformed, who had helped other people transform, who had helped other people build their businesses. But in reality, guys, it's all of the days in between and the simple steps in between that make up the greatness. So to not lose sight of that, how you feel right now is now to go and take what is actually simple. But the cool thing is that really what we're talking about is the complicated, but the means of getting there is so simple. Like Alex mentioned, you can give, Harold, you can give things power or take it away. And how Alex mentioned Dr. A used to just be this goofy orange figure in a book, like same thing here. I took that power away from the Habits of Health system initially because I didn't give it power. I didn't give it impact. I didn't utilize it either in my coaching. Therefore, and so by taking the power away from that tool, I also took power away from my clients. And so right now, if what you feel and you have the faith in this system, the process of actually putting this to work in other people's lives is so stinking simple, guys. So beautiful, not easy, but simple. And it is that process exactly is what's going to give your vision, your heart integrity through your other clients. So utilizing the books, utilizing the support calls, quite honestly, it's the simple things in between that you don't want to do that are going to make you who you want to be.
Yeah, I'd like to add one last thing to segue off what you spoke about with integrity. Don't discount what we have here don't overlook it as a resource for your clients too. If you have kind of has these concepts or is on the fence, invite them to this. Let them see the integrity, what you spoke about, and how authentic we are. And it's not about talking about that food. And I think they'll come to realize that this is bigger than that box of food that they keep wrapping their head around.
Yeah, I think in fact we have at least 3 people on here that their first webinar they got on, they were just clients. Gina, was that Gina and Johanna? Anybody else? The 3 people here, and now they sit here as coaches because they connected with something that they believed in. So pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Well, it really is about the next step. It's about just what's the next thing, and that will take the confusion away. It will take all the mystery of being able to name what's the next thing I need to do to move forward. I'm just going to tell you guys what I'm going to do, and I'm going to tell you this transparently because I want you to know what does it look like to fill in that gap. As Sam said, she was so into, I want to be on the other side. I want to be that business leader who has helped hundreds of business coaches, helped thousands of people get healthy. But then the reality was that she barely had a client that she could keep. That's where she came. She barely could keep clients. She was so not confident with where she was at. I'm telling this transparently because this is what's going to help you all grow. Yeah, Sam Prethtenbach doubted herself constantly, right? Her resistance, her husband back and forth, all that. But the reality was she saw something and then she took the one next step and the one next step and the one next step. And you have to learn. And I tell you, enjoy the journey. Be willing to say, this is worth it. Enjoy it along the way. But if you don't know what it is, I told you I was going to be transparent. I have a list. I have a list of those next step actions for me to go look at because I get caught up in all this stuff. I let this happen to me where the stuff clears my vision. So I have to go back to my list. I have to go back to my purpose that I've written down and look at that again. And then I have to go look at that one next step. And when I don't know what that one next step is, or I get unsure, I call up my mentor and I have a heart to heart and I say, here's where my mind is at. And I dump it. And he or she, yesterday it was Terry Miller. She goes, all right, Alex, bang, bang, bang. You're on, you got it. Go do what you just said. Okay, good. Sometimes I just needed to know that what I'm thinking is the right thing. So if you're not sure, call your coach. Tell them what you're thinking. And if you have no thought, let them help you with that next thought. That's it. Just keep it that simple. I trust that everybody will have that. So, all right. So we're going to end this portion of the call. I'm going to stop recording now. For those of you who are listening in that didn't get a chance to be on this live, definitely please reach up to me or who your mentor coach is, and let's help you get clear on this. Get focused with a simple to follow plan so that you can start taking actions versus theorizing, versus just making it a hope. Faith without works does nothing. It says faith without works is dead, doesn't really produce. But so take your belief, your hope, marry that with some action so you can get some practical. Let's make adjustments so that it actually produces what you believe in. With that said, let's go do something.